Hi guys, it's a beautiful day here in the UK. The birds are singing in the background, I love it. So basically, I've been learning all about Elvis and his love, his passion for horses, his love for animals, and how generous he was, where he bought all of his friends and family horses, and a bit of the history on Elvis Presley's love with his horses. Let's have a listen.
We know very much about Elvis and his music, Elvis and his movie career, little about his pastime and what he loved. We know that he went motorcycle riding, loved that as a pastime. He had a race car track out in front, go-kart riding. He loved little slot cars that gave to him a slot car kit, and he turned a whole room into it. And they were basically, he kind of was finished with those hobbies, and when we started horseback riding, that was really what he kept going back to, and that was his love. He loved to see the horses out in the pastures. He loved looking out of his office and seeing the horses roaming around, and it was really a nice sight. It's a very homey feeling.
So Elvis had a bit of a bad experience with a horse while filming Flaming Star, which actually put him off horses. But eventually he bought Priscilla Presley in 1967 a black horse that he named Domino. And Elvis would sit in his office that backed onto Graceland. So behind Graceland, he could look at the barn, the stable behind it, and watch Priscilla riding up and down, racing up and down on her black horse. And she absolutely loved it. This made him want to buy a horse.
Had our tack room in the very back. He wrote all our names, whose tack was who, whose saddle was who. He got so into it, that this is where we spent not only our days, but he would come in the evenings, and he would also come in the early mornings, like about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and just stroll out here and just be with the horses. It just seemed to be a little bit of therapy for Elvis. I mean, it was something that he could take care of, and so, he had always animals around Graceland, but the horses just meant a whole lot to him because he was actually caring for them. He would walk them after a ride.
And we all see Elvis as this phenomenal rock star, superstar, king of rock and roll. But he did have a lovely, soft nature that was so caring. He absolutely adored and loved his animals, and he treated his own animals like human beings, whether they were a pony or a donkey or a monkey or a dog or a cat. No matter what it was, Elvis loved his animals and spent many hours looking after them and making sure they were happy and comfortable. So Elvis Presley eventually decided to buy a horse, and he wanted a golden Palomino. And him and Priscilla and some of the Memphis Mafia and family would go horse hunting around Memphis looking for this special horse. And eventually they did find a special horse, and he called it the Rising Sun, and even called the stables that he lived in the House of the Rising Sun. Elvis adored the Rising Sun and spent many hours and days with the Rising Sun, grooming and keeping him friendly. Actually, I don't actually know if it was a male or a female, so that's just me being honest. So basically, there's some great footage here of Elvis. You can see he loves riding the Rising Sun. I think that is the Rising Sun, but I'm not definite. And he had another black horse called the Bear, which was a phenomenal horse that would win competitions. It was a prize-winning horse. And there he is. And so he would race up and down Graceland, and he would even ride to the gates and show his horses off. And when he was on the Rising Sun, he would dress like a cowboy. But when he was on Bear, the black horse, he would wear a hat and a suit and look very formal. And the fans would gather outside the gates, sometimes 300-400 cars pulled up to watch Elvis and his friends and family in the Memphis Mafia and the wives of the Memphis Mafia riding around on their horses. And he really prided himself, and he made sure that the stables were impeccable, and he spent many hours grooming and cooling down the horses after a long ride. And he was so proud to show off his horses to the fans. He literally treated his animals and his horses like they were his close friends, and they meant everything to him. And I think horses were just as important to Elvis as his friends and as his family and as singing and as acting. They really were a massive part of his life, and I don't think the fans all know just how much Elvis's animals and horses. He even had some donkeys, and we know that he had a monkey which I think was called Scatter. And this footage is brilliant, where it's showing the driveway up through Graceland. It's such amazing vintage footage, showing some of the grounds around Graceland. You can almost imagine being there. And I'm just so glad that Elvis had many happy times enjoying his love, his passion of horses. And I think he rode horses right from 67 when he bought the Rising Sun, I think. And can you imagine being with Elvis, being a family member or in the Memphis Mafia, or one of the Memphis Mafia's wives, and being given a horse and being able to spend days, many days, with Elvis? You can see Elvis here now, chatting with some fans, I think. Or it could be, actually no, that actually could be family members. He looks great. Actually looks quite dangerous, don't they? They're going quite fast. I'm so glad we've got this footage, that we can watch it, and the way he's dressed up for it. I know Priscilla really did love her horse as well. It's nice to see Elvis just relaxing and not stressed, not worrying about the businesses. And here's a little news clip on what happened to the horses after Elvis passed away, and what happened to the barn and the ranch. Thanks, everyone.
After his death, the horses were largely neglected. Aileen got them back in good shape, and she became stable manager. Now, of course, there are 4 new faces in the stalls.
It's a beautiful stable. Who lives here?
This is Bandit, Blue-Eyed Bandit.
Hello, Bandit.
Bandit for short.
Bandit is a quarter horse rescued from an abusive owner in Fayette County.
This is No Candy, Just Cash, and we call him Candy.
Pick up, good boy.
Candy is a Tennessee walking horse with serious foot problems.
But now we pack his feet with memory foam like you sleep on.
Okay.
Then we wrap it with vet wrap and duct tape, and he walks well, and he's a happy boy now. This is Max's mane, and we call him Max. Max came here all excited and lonely and didn't like to have people touch him. And
I think that's changed a little bit.
It has changed a lot.
Max was saved from a trip to a slaughterhouse in Canada.
And this is our Tucker, our golden palomino.
Hello, Tucker.
And he is a beautiful boy.
Tucker carries on the tradition of golden palominos at Graceland.
We're actually going to see one of Elvis's saddles.
Angie Marchese is in charge of the Elvis archives.
And the saddle here actually was custom made here in Memphis. It was made at the standard saddle shop on National Avenue. Elvis had horses for everybody, and in fact, this is a ledger from 1967, and it lists every horse Elvis bought, the date he bought it, and how much he paid for them, and exactly what type of horse that it was.
Fun story to do, and beautiful horses, great hospitality. This is one of those cases where you can go behind closed doors too, just not very often. The stable is open for tours only during a few days a year.
Well, that's it, guys. I hope that just sort of gave you an insight into Elvis Presley's love of his horses and his animals, and just another side to Elvis other than the legend that we all know him, the man behind the scenes who just wanted to spend time loving and caring for his animals and his horses. Thanks everyone.